Hey, thanks for joining me. This one, it's been kind of a long time coming, and I've wanted to talk about it. You can't talk about the early 90s X-Men comics and not address the Generation X title. This was a big deal. They were hyping up about a new team, a new book. I mean, X-Men was the thing. It was everywhere and everything. There's Uncanny X-Men. There's the regular X-Men title that Jim Lee started. There's X-Factor. There's X-Force. There's Excalibur. And they wanted to start another one. And of course, this was the Generation X era. So Generation X comic. And this was hyped as a big deal. And I remember at the time, I don't think I collected it. I think that my younger brother collected it. I think at this time, I got to look up and see when this was published. 94. So my older brother had already moved away and gone to college, because my older brother and I, we were collecting these when we were younger, but my older brother moved away, was at college. So at this point, it had to have been my younger brother collecting these, because I wasn't, as I remember. I just kind of wasn't interested in the idea of picking up another title. Again, this is 94, so I'm in like my 11th grade year of high school, and I had no income of my own, so the only way I could get comics was to get money from my parents. And at this time, things financially were extremely rough. I mean, I guess no reason to kind of go into it, but like there was a point where my dad. It's funny. It's actually going to make me emotional if I think about it, because today is Father's Day, and I think about, as I record this, not when it comes out, but as I record this is Sunday. My dad did construction for the entirety of I knew him doing nothing but construction, and he did drywalling, and it screwed up his body. Because he ended up doing a lot of jobs physically by himself. He would take me and my older brother with him to do these jobs when it was summer vacation or after school. God, I fucking hated it, because I don't know if you've ever hung sheetrock. It fucking sucks. It's one thing if you're in like a cookie cutter house with no vaulted ceilings and weird angles. If it's just like a straight box house with 8-foot tall ceilings, it's not that hard. You can just lay one board down and then stand the other one on top of it, screw it in, hang the lids first, then the bottom boards. Then we tape it, we finish it, we do everything. We did the entire job. We hung it and we taped it, we finished it. We did everything. But there were times when my dad, he was on a job by himself, and it fucked up his body, his back, his legs, his right arm, because your right arm is your life, or well, your dominant hand, whatever it is. You're swinging a hammer, you're cutting, you're lifting, you're taping, you're using all these tools, and he was in a lot of physical pain, and he just could not keep up. He wasn't a young man anymore. He could not keep up, and it was affecting him mentally. Like, he was in pain. He couldn't keep up the work. He couldn't keep up the job. And so money was hard to come by, because he just couldn't get the job done fast. And there were times when he just kind of just couldn't go into work. The thought of going in the middle of winter into this freezing open house and hanging the board in this house by himself was just like, there's times he couldn't fucking do it. And I watched him, and I look back on it now. Again, I was like 17 years old, 16, 17, and I didn't exactly understand what was going on, but I kind of did. But I look back on it now, and it was really hard on him. And it wasn't until he was at his wit's end and literally had nothing else that he could do when a doctor said to him, like, your body cannot physically do this anymore. You can't do this anymore, John Norton. You have to do something else. And so it's when the doctor told him that he can't do that anymore that he just went and applied to work at Home Depot, of all fucking things. And he's like, I know a lot of stuff about construction. I bet I could do good. And that was the greatest thing he'd ever done in his life. He says, I get a consistent paycheck every 2 weeks. I'm in a building that's closed off, and all I have to do is talk to people and show them how to do stuff. He was so fucking mad that he didn't do that years ago. He's like, I'm so stupid. He told me this years ago. He's like, I'm so fucking dumb, Rob, I should have just not been trying to hang fucking sheetrock my entire life and just gone to work for a big box company. And he rapidly ascended to assistant manager levels, making good money and saving his body. He's like, I should have done this years ago. Anyway, long story that no one fucking cares about. But the point that I'm getting at is, in this time, the only place I could get money for comic books was from my parents. And they didn't have any fucking money. But to my dad's credit, he went out of his way to find a few bucks here and there to let his stupid son, me, go buy comic books on occasion. And so I had to kind of pick and choose what I wanted to get, and I couldn't get everything. But he also let my younger brother buy books. And I think my younger brother was picking this up because I read them, but I never owned them. And this copy I got just recently from somebody. They basically let me have it for free. You can see it's got a crease in the cover here. It's been folded over. I don't give a shit about that. I just kind of want to look at the book and kind of talk about it. But anyway, sorry for the little detour. It is Father's Day. I'm still waiting for my little boys who are with their mom to give me a call and say Happy Father's Day to me. I don't want to have to call their mom and like, hey, would you tell the boys to call me and wish me Happy Father's Day? It'd be kind of nice. It still hasn't happened. But somehow my dad found a way to give me a few bucks to go buy comics. And there was almost never a time when he said no. Even though we were struggling financially, he went out of his way to keep me. Because in his mind, he also said, it's a cheap thing. Like, you love it. You're not asking for video games or bikes or go on trips. He's like, all you ask for, son, is comic books. He's like, that's cheap. I can afford that. I can do that for you. So I'll forever be grateful for that. Anyway, the point being that this was a big deal when it was coming out. And having reread it for the first time in years, I don't know if I don't know. It's like a lot of these X-Men books at the time. It feels a little bit pretentious. Like feels like it thinks it's more important and more cool than it actually was. And I don't expect everyone to kind of agree with that. In fact, I can already hear people typing already like, this was a great book. This was awesome. I'm not saying it wasn't awesome. It's just kind of weird to read it years later. And, you know, the X-Men books kind of got super convoluted and kind of lost their soul a bit when Chris Claremont left in the hands of guys like Scott Lobdell, who did an okay job. But we start out with, we get introduced to, I don't know if at the time in 94, I was aware that Cannonball had a sister. I didn't read New Mutants. The only place I knew Cannonball from was X-Force. I mean, I knew the character existed. I knew Cannonball was there in New Mutants, but I didn't ever read the character until I started picking up New Mutants because Liefeld was on it, and he was the biggest hyped up thing in the history of ever at that time. But I don't know that I knew that Cannonball had a sister, which is this girl, Paige Guthrie, the younger sister. And of course, she's very dedicated, and she's working hard to be the best. She's a mutant. Nature's way of saying, here you go, a little something extra. Try harder. You've been given genetically altered abilities which separate you from the rest of the human race. Deal with it. So it's trying to be clever. Can't talk about Generation X without talking about Chris Bachalo. I've never known for sure how to pronounce that man's last name. I'm just assuming that's correct. I hope it's correct. If it's wrong, please forgive me. I'd never heard anyone speak it out loud that I know for a fact knows him and how to pronounce it. Like, I know it, like, for example, there's the artist Travis Charest, but it looks like you'd pronounce it Charest or Charest. I've heard a lot of people say it differently. The only reason I know it's Charest is because Richard Friend, the inker, who worked with him on Wildcats, so he knows him personally. I've heard Richard Friend pronounce Travis Charest's name, so I'm like, okay, he knows him personally, so now I know exactly how to pronounce it. But Chris Bachalo, I don't know. I've never heard anyone say it that I'm aware of, whether it was him himself or somebody who directly knows him. So if somebody knows for sure, please tell me. But anyway, his art with inks by Mark Buckingham, Chris Bachalo's art, it's one of those things where I didn't super love it at the time. In retrospect, I really appreciate it now. But also, Bachalo's art he, as he progressed, he got really stylistic, and he is fantastic. But he kind of flirted with this style, especially when he got onto steampunk, where it was like it's so cluttered and dense, I can't make heads or tail of anything I'm looking at. It was so hard to decipher, especially specifically on steampunk, that I got pissed off at the comic. I'm like, I wanted to love it because it was part of the Cliffhanger crew, the Battle Chasers and Crimson and Danger Girl. And he kind of jumped onto with those guys, if I remember correctly, and the idea sounded great. Like, what a perfect title, what an interesting concept, and what a great artist to join that crew. But God, I got pissed off at the art because I could not decipher what I was looking at. It was so cluttered, it was frustrating. And that's what I think of when I think of Chris Bacalo's art. I forget about this older shit when he was earlier in his career. This is obviously not the first thing he's ever done, clearly. Like, I know that. But looking at it, it's so much more open and clean and clear. It's not exactly, it's a far cry in a lot of ways from the ways that he draws now. But it also still looks like his work. But I prefer this a lot. At the time, I was kind of not super into it. It was certainly fine, but I didn't love it. Didn't hate it, but didn't love it. Now, looking at it in retrospect, I'm like, this is really good. This is really, it's got a very different stylistic approach to it. But anyway, Paige Guthrie, she's she's out early, super early, running, carrying weights, being in shape, and runs into Jubilee, and she's like, what kind of psycho is up this early working out? So, of course, we're getting into Jubilee being kind of silly and just kind of being in character with who she is. Just like, why the hell are you out so early working out like this? And, of course, Paige, she's like, she's just working so hard to be the best that she can be. And that's okay. Now we get exposed to what Paige Guthrie's powers are. I think her superhero name ends up being Husk. I've never really understood her powers in as much as how this is a helpful mutation. She's all sweaty and gross, and so what she can do is she can shed her outer layer of skin to have a brand new, fresh skin underneath it. So she rips her own skin off, and now the sweaty, gross skin that she had on from when she was working out, she just literally tears it off. I'm like, okay, how is that helpful in a battle? How can you use that? Like, she can't shapeshift. It doesn't give her strength or flight or mental abilities. She can just change her skin. Now, like I said, my younger brother, I think, collected these, and I did read them, but the stories never stuck with me, so I'm sure this gets expanded upon. So if anybody wants to explain to me how these powers are relevant in any fucking way, how they explain it, I'm not saying they don't, I'm sure they do, but it doesn't make any sense to me at this point. How does moving your skin off become some kind of tactical thing? Like, it's a weird mutation, but what good does it do you in battle? It's like having a character whose ability is to fire bubbles from your fingers. Like, yep, fire bubbles from your fingers. Guess what? That's cool. It sucks that you're immune, but I'm sorry, that's not going to do much good against Sabretooth. So I don't get it. I guess the idea is that I think that if she gets hurt, if she sheds her skin, she's healed. So that's the ability to heal. Anyway, I'm going on too long about this. Somebody tell me what the fuck her powers actually are good for. But they're just kind of going back and forth. There's lots of dialogue between these characters. Overly wordy, unnecessarily wordy, but it's an X-Men comic of the 90s. So that's just unfortunately to be expected. And so now we obviously know Jubilee. We've known her for years. Paige here, I think she's been introduced in the comics before, but she's kind of the new character as she's grown up and has powers, so she's relatively new. And so as they're walking along, a voice from behind them, they hear someone, and then here is another new character. As far as I know, I think this is her introduction. I know some of these characters have been introduced in like a previous storyline, like we see them for the first time. So now that it's the gathering of all these new characters who are going to be the new team, some of them we've already been introduced to. I don't know that M here is her name has been introduced already. Again, somebody can clarify for me. But she shows up and it says Monet St. Croix, possessed of a multitude of superhuman attributes, the smallest of which are not the smallest of which are beauty and ego. So I do remember this about this character. She's super powerful and she's supposed to be super beautiful, which she is. And she's completely full of herself. She's just like kind of comes across as like a rich, bitchy snob. And that's kind of an interesting kind of character trait. Reminds me of Emma Frost, kind of that way. So, of course, these two girls find her to be an incredibly insufferable kind of cunt. And, but M doesn't give a shit. So, we're introduced to her. That's kind of how she is. It works. And then they're kind of talking back and forth, and M doesn't give a shit about anything that they say. And of course, Banshee, Sean Cassidy, he shows up. Now he's going to be the one of the two kind of leaders of the team. It's Banshee and Emma Frost. I don't remember how in the X-Men comics, I know that it did happen. I just don't remember the storyline where Emma Frost becomes part of the X-Men, how she ended up joining them. I kind of forget that they kind of put her on the X-Men and kind of changed her from villainous Hellfire Club evil girl to sort of a leaning towards the good guys to full on out becoming a member of the team to eventually the point where she was like in a relationship with Cyclops eventually. So I don't remember how that all happened, but it kind of establishes here. He's showing up. He's like, hey, it's good to meet you all, you guys. You're prepared for your 7 a.m. training session. And M, who just showed up, she's like, yes, I'm expecting a few personal belongings. He's like, it's all right. I'll take care of it myself. And, of course, the joke is, as he turns and looks, there's like at least 3 big kind of box trucks showing up with all her personal possessions. So, of course, the joke is that she's very materialistic. I think she's supposed to be super wealthy, and so she's bringing her entire existence with her. And they're like, holy shit. They even say, what did you do? Pack your whole life in there? And to kind of lean into the kind of pop culture at the time, Banshee literally does the Homer Simpson dough. Like, dough. It's kind of stupid, but if for 1994, it was kind of the thing. Cut to another scene, because again, we have to introduce all these characters, some of which we've seen. I think this guy over here, his name's Everett. I'm pretty sure he's introduced in like some previous storyline. This is not the first time we've seen this guy, I'm pretty sure. But this guy, who is the guy on the cover, and like this is an interesting visual. They kind of started leaning into some of these superpowers on these characters being, it's not just like everyone happens to be super beautiful and can shoot lasers from their hands or can fly or some shit. Like they're really fortunate with their powers where they're awesome and beautiful and powerful. Some of these characters have horrific mutations. And that's this guy. I don't know if he's on a bus or a plane. I'm going to say a plane, I guess. But this little girl is looking back and seeing this guy. And he's got this kind of thing wrapped around up from his lower part of his body, up over his mouth, his nose. The only thing you can see is his eyes. And he notices that she's looking. So he pulls this scarf thing down that's up over his mouth. He pulls it down just enough to see that there's crackling energy and like his skin looks really horrifying. In a way, you can almost be like, is this a bad guy? This is horrifying. But we get some inner thoughts from him. He says, I'm coming, Charles Xavier. Yeah, his name is Starsmore. I think it's Jonathan Starsmore. I'm coming, Charles Xavier, just as you requested. But what, I wonder, do you expect your school for gifted youngsters will be able to do with a freak like me? So this is leaning into the idea of that these mutations sometimes are pretty horrific and it's scary. So cut to this guy. He's training somewhere. He's running around. Big awesome shot of the guy. He's kind of thinking to himself. Oh yeah, it says here. Yeah, after the past few weeks between learning I'm a mutant and slugging it out with something emphasized on thing called the phalanx, which says see recent issues of the X-Men. So yeah, the phalanx covenant. Again, I think my younger brother was collecting those, and I know I read at least some of them, but I was kind of out of X-Men in a big way. I was kind of done. It turned into something that wasn't interesting to me anymore. So I read them, but only because my brother had them. But the stories did not stick with me. So yeah, we've been introduced to him. So he's down there. He's in some kind of training area. Like, is this the danger room? What is this? As he's there, something. I guess he looks down into the water. He sees a distortion of something. So he looks, and he finds something in the water. It's Angelo's belt. How'd it get into the stream? So then you see a hidden figure in the distance watching our guy get distracted by this thing in the water. So we get introduced to this character, Angelo Espinosa. His superhero name becomes Skin because he can stretch his skin, which again is another one of those, like, it's a creepy power. It doesn't make him, he's not handsome and beautiful like Cyclops or Colossus, Angel, Havoc, even freaking like Nightcrawler. He might have dark blue skin and pointy ears and fangs and a tail, but he was always like, once he got onto the X-Men, he was like a swashbuckling, handsome, charming lady killer. Like, even he kind of got a pretty good side of it because he's still handsome, even if he looks like a demon. These guys, like guy with the blown out face and this guy who stretches his skin, again, how is that a superpower? It's a thing he can do, but unless your skin is like super damage resistant, which I guess they imply that it is, he can stretch his skin, not his bones. I don't think. It's just his skin. And he can control it. So it's kind of like a Reed Richards kind of Fantastic Four thing. Again, it's another, like, they were just trying to come up with something weird for these characters. And they did. It is weird. Like, how is this useful? I don't know. But he's Angelo Espinosa, so he's Hispanic. Muy bueno, muchacho, he says. So they're training against each other. So they tackle each other, and they get into whatever this guy's name is. Like, I can't remember his superpower. I know they'll tell us somewhere. But he says, Espinosa here. He's like, I didn't want your sync aura interacting with my skin. So I guess this guy's power is he kind of like, he can sync up his body with whatever mutant he is nearby and take on those attributes. I think it's because his skin is stretching the way that Angelo Espinosa's skin is stretching. So that's his ability to mimic the abilities of mutants he's around. That's kind of useful. That I can see that one being useful. But of course now their powers are getting out of control. And they're just like super wrapping each other up in their gross, disgusting skin powers. It's all going bad. And then while that's going on, there's Jubilee, there's Paige, Husk, and then M. And they're showing up in a room and they're like, I thought we were going to start our training session. And then, so there's Banshee. He's like, yeah, you're right. We are going to train. You're looking at the world's first and no doubt only fully interactive ecological biosphere. And Jubilee says, are you serious? A danger grotto? And Husk, she's like, yeah, I studied the layouts and schematics for the original and Shi'ar-based danger room for months. You can't be changing things on me like that. And so Banshee says, those circuits and hollow projections you were studying, they aren't needed here. This place won't break down and need fixing. For this and other reasons, it's far superior to the original. Safe as safe can be. So before we get into the fighting here, I gotta say, I don't fucking believe a word of this. This is stupid. He's like, you know that hyper super advanced danger room with like holographic projections combined with alien technology that can create literally anything you ever need to see, and we can adjust up and down the threat level to where it's, you can put people in there and it's safe for a new person, or it can be very dangerous for an experienced person. All this advanced alien technology. Well, I have a biosphere that's just like a park. There's just grass and trees, and this is way better than the danger room. Bull fucking shit, this is way better than the danger room. They were just trying to introduce a new concept, and I get it. Here's something new. Here's something different. But like, what do you mean? He says, the place won't break down and need fixing. Are you kidding? Have you ever seen a mutant? These guys that can shoot lasers, he could vaporize this jungle in an instant, and it all has to grow back. Now, maybe it's a super advanced thing and it eventually will grow back, but I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. I thought this was really stupid. It's like they can't even verbalize why it's better, except for them to say, for this and other reasons, this is so much better than the danger room. Fucking bullshit. Your little, like, park danger room, that's not better than the danger room. Anyway, so the Skin and whatever the other guy's name, they're just wrapped up in each other. They come smashing through. Now, this is this book. Like I said, I got this secondhand from somebody, so the cover was all fucked up, and these pages were falling out. What's funny is when I got this page, this missing section, was folded way into the back, and I didn't know. So I just thought the scene went from here to here. I'm like, okay. But then I got later in the book, and suddenly I'm like, wait, what the fuck is going on? So I had to like piece it together and find out it was even folded the wrong way. It was folded this way. I had to fold it back and find out where it actually sits. I'm like, okay, I got it. It threw me off. But they're fighting each other. They land. And of course, we have to break them up. And of course, Emma Frost shows up, and she used her abilities to kind of use her she's like, well, who came up with the idea of you guys cross-training against each other? She's like, me. I did that. He's like, I should have known. Are ye daft, woman? Are ye daft? And so, of course, we're establishing that these two are going to be in charge and are going to have very different ideas of how to train these young people. Banshee wants to be more cautious and helpful, and Emma Frost is like, we need to get these kids trained against each other in very dangerous situations, because this is what they're going to find in the world. Sorry, am I already out of place? This page here is all, oh yeah, okay. Yeah, okay, sorry. Before I get into this, they're going at each other, and, she's like, we need to train them better. And he's like, we won't be able to have them train against each other if they're hurting each other. And she says, which they will do if we don't train them properly. So there's a lot of back and forth going on about how they're supposed to train these guys. And then they're like, all right, well, we need to go have breakfast. But again, like I said, this section was not in the book in the right place. It was just folded in the back somewhere. And I'm like, this is not the next page. This page is later on in the book. And I was noticing, if you look, this fold out, it doesn't have any holes in it from the staples. So this page itself was never stapled in the book. Like, there is no staple perforations in this anywhere. So however this book was put together, I'm pretty sure it's supposed to go from here to this page. So this is supposed to be folded in there underneath these pages. And this stuff has not been taken apart. So I don't know how this happened to this book. So when I was reading this, I was definitely lost. I was like, what is going on? But we'll get to this eventually, where this is supposed to be in there. But so now we cut to the scene with, here's a car. Got to give it to Bacalo. That's a hell of an imposing car. I don't know if he traces that or he just draws it really well. But these guys are looking for, they're like the fleshy human thing, the one called Jonathan Starsmore. His plane should be arriving shortly, sir. So you get this giant car, and there's this creepy monster in the front and some creature in the back. And this guy says, I don't get it. Looking as he does, the boy is of no use to anyone except me. What is he doing here in the United States? So obviously some villainous threat, like, what's going on here? So he's like, I'm going to track down this Starsmore guy. I'm going to find him. So now we cut back to the Generation X crew. And again, it's all these kids getting to know each other. which is kind of a standard, like, first issue thing. Team coming together. There's distrust. There's people who like each other. There's people who don't like each other. Jubilee and whatever his name is, they're getting along fine. Everett, and whatever his superhero name is. And then M, of course, she's full of herself. And they're like kind of laughing at her. Banshee shows up in his awesome little car. Again, maybe that's another photo trace, which, I mean, why not? It looks great. They're like, hey, we got to go to the airport. We got to go find somebody. We got to go get a new person who's joining us. And M doesn't want to go. So Jubilee jumps in the car and with Everett, and they're going to go. All right, off they go. So then M runs into Gateway. And that is a really interesting shot of him. That's where Chris Bacalo is really taking some artistic liberties. Giant head. It's kind of leaning into more cartoony vibe. It's really different. It's a little strange. It kind of bugged me then, and it kind of bugs me now to be so proportionately oddball. Like, it feels like something Bacalo would do, but it's a little weird. But it doesn't ruin anything. But she kind of talks like she knows him. She says, it's a pleasure to see you again, mentor. But the entire reason I came here is so that the others might continue my tutelage. While I certainly aspire to more lofty ambitions than simply becoming a so-called X-Men, all involved parties feel they can provide the necessary. So basically, she's saying that she's been instructed by Gateway, who's been a mysterious character with... He never talks, and he's entirely a mystery, but she's been taught by him. But then as she stops, she's like, wait, this isn't about me. It's him. He's returned, hasn't he? So it's like, who? Who's returned? Obviously, she knows something. He knows something. But then it cuts to that monster guy that was in the back of that car. And it's illustrated like he's kind of got this blurry kind of depiction in the art, which to me it shows that they're trying to be like, it says here, he's a fraction out of dimensional sync. He is virtually undetectable to those around him. So, yeah, that's the point. He's invisible to everybody. So he's walking through the airport, and you see through his perspective, like this old man has a little glowing aura around him, which is a long faded trace of mutant ability. He can see that. But he says, of course, I'm looking for something fresher, juicier, tastier. So obviously this guy, he wants to eat mutants with super big, awesome powers is the idea. Okay. So at the same time, several feet and a world away, because again, the X-Men are there. Well, at least it's not the X-Men, but you know what I mean. There's Banshee and the crew. They're there to pick up this guy. So they're there talking about how we're supposed to, they're here to get a guy, this monster. I guess his name is M-Plate. M-Plate feels it in what is left of his soul before he actually sees the boy. So again, he can see through his eyes like powerful mutants, like an energy cascading off him. And before he even sees the person, he sees the energy cascading off of Jonathan Starsmore. And he says, come to me, Jonathan Starsmore, embrace me, feed me. At the same time, Jubilee and Everett and Banshee, they see the kid walking up. And they're like, who's the walking Band-Aid? And Banshee is, of course, he's a guy that needs our help. And he can do without our pity. So they're trying to wave him down at the same time as Monster is approaching him. So everyone's after him. And then Monster Guy, M-Plate, I guess, he walks up to Starsmore, and his hand really wide, close to him, says, yum. And I'm trying to pay attention to where this page needs to fold in here. I'm kind of not certain. It's a little bit later on, I think. Because the other characters... Yeah, okay. Okay, yeah, I got it. All right. Kind of sucks when the pages are not actually in the book. But, yeah. Monster Guy grabs onto Starsmore, grabs him, and then he says, welcome to America, Jonathan Starsmore. Now die, and let me amend that first. Provide me with the genetic stuff of life I need to suck from your bones, then die. So he grabs at him. And when he does that, he now becomes visible to everyone else. And so all the rest of the crew, the humans in the airport and Jubilee, Banshee, the other guys are like, holy shit, look what's going on. So Banshee screams, uses his powers to unload his sonic scream at the guy. And guy's like pissed off that he got interrupted. And Monster Guy knows that it's Sean Cassidy. And Banshee's like, how do you know who I am? And he says, it's just one of the aspects of my power, Sean. May I call you Sean? Knowledge at a glance. I see your power, your passion, your past, and your present. And then, again, through the monster's eyes, you can see the glowing energy around the mutants. And so, bad guy, he says, you see, I also possess the ability to rechannel energy I have siphoned. In this case, Jonathan's, combined with Sean's. So he's blasting sonic energy back at the other characters, hits the guy, blasts him in the guts, doesn't kill him, of course, but it hurts him really bad. And so they're all on the ground, and bad guy goes back to sucking the energy out of Starsmore, who's eventually he gets the superhero named Chamber. But the interesting thing here is, as bad guy monster is trying to suck the energy out of Chamber, it's not working. He's like, what? No one has ever used their powers while I was siphoning them. It's impossible. So we're seeing how powerful Chamber is. Bad guy's like, this is impossible. And Chamber's like, nothing's impossible. And so we see Chamber there. He says, I'm speaking from experience. And if I can learn to adjust to this, all things are possible. So the idea that they're saying in this book that they eventually get to, but it's implied here, is that when his powers manifested, it blows him apart. Like it actually erupted and destroyed part of his physical body. His lower part of his mouth and his upper part of his chest, it's blown out. Again, you've never seen an X-Men like this. Like we were saying, they're leaning into these powers having really creepy, devastating physical effects that really screw up these people. And it works. This is a great shot. I love the lighting, the inking, the texture in the background. And all the characters are like, holy shit, look at this poor guy. And Monster Guy is like, over the years, I've enjoyed many different types of mutations, but never have I seen a guest at such a veritable smorgasbord of designer jeans. I'm honored. So he's like, I've been sucking the life out of mutants forever. I can't wait to finish you off. And then suddenly the rest of the Generation X team shows up with Gateway, of course. And they're all in their kind of uniforms. And these are kind of not bad uniform designs, like red and yellow. It's kind of neat to see them all have like a unifying design. Like the New Mutants had that black and yellow look. It works. But now they all show up. And Husk, Paige Guthrie, she charges at him. She's like, you know what? I'll just charge at you and do something. And so Banshee screams and remembers how years ago Thunderbird got killed on his first mission and is worried that he's about to witness the same thing as Monster Guy rips Husk's guts out. Just shreds her down to her core. At least that's kind of what it implies. She screams. So I guess she feels this. And then she's doubled over, falls to the ground, and Jubilee's freaking out. Now this is where this page is supposed to be. So here's the double page spread. Now Jubilee, having been introduced to Husk's powers, even though she's kind of out of it, I guess she's unconscious and bleeding, Jubilee goes up and she finds it so gross, but she rips her skin off. Just rips her skin off and then she's fine. She had her guts ripped out, but all you have to do is pull her skin off and her mutant power replaces it and she's healed and she's fine. Again, it's a great way to be saved from damage, but what can she do except survive a lot of damage? I don't get it. But so now here's kind of the obligatory team shot. They're all together. They're standing. We're together, united, and here's our first foe. This creepy monster thing with the CPAP machine strapped to his face. So then these pages are together like this. And so this is a good shot of the bad guy. Again, Chris Bacalo, his art is pretty fantastic. He has some dark shadows and textures and line work with the inks that it just looks great. But then he gives a big long speech here. He says, "Before I go, understand this. After I have supped upon the marrow of others like yourself, I will return. Know that wherever you go, I can see you. Wherever you run, I can follow. Wherever you hide, I can find you, and I will. Know that I will devour each and every one of you, a morsel at a time, and there's not a blessed thing that you can do to stop me. Bon appetit, children." So M charges at him. She's like, wait, we can stop him before he disappears. But then she mentally, like, well, not but something stops her. Like, she just suddenly, she can't move. And M is like, what happened? And Emma Frost, she says, I happened. We nearly lost Husk to her hot-headedness, M. I wanted to prevent an encore performance, so I telepathically commandeered your thoughts for an instant. And M does not like that. She's like, don't you ever enter my mind again. Are we clear on this? And so now they're kind of having a fight back and forth, but they're like, you know what? We need to get out of here. Emma Frost is making them all blind to the humans. The humans can't see them now. And now we get to see Chamber with his whole blown out chest and everything. And Jubilee's like, so welcome to Generation X. So again, the team is together. Exciting. We cut back to the monster guy. They're him and his little like chauffeur driver creature thing. They're at some kind of like hideout that they've got. And they're like, and the big monster guy, he's like, that battle took a lot out of me. And they go in there and they're like, wait, she's gone. He's like, after years of acting as my sole sustenance, what am I to do without her? So they're implying that they had some woman, they talk about a her, that he's had captured and sucked off her energy, her life energies for years, and somehow she got away. He's like, holy shit. This pisses him off. What is he going to do? How is he going to survive without her? I almost keep saying the X-Men. Back with the Generation X crew. They're together. Angelo Espinosa, he likes to smoke, which is an interesting kind of component they would never put in these comics anymore. And so they're kind of putting together, like, all this crazy shit just happened. What are we going to do? What's our next move? There's this great shot of this Chamber guy. The visual kind of way that he's being shown here, with like his glowing section, all this energy cascading off him. He looks so creepy. I'm curious, whatever happened to this character? For those of you who know and who read this book, I seem to have it in my head that he actually died somewhere, like he's gone. Is that true? Is that correct? Is he dead? As a character, I don't seem to remember seeing him anywhere. But he's like, dude, there's someone here to see you. So they run out, and Gateway, he's back again. He showed up and he's doing something. And of course, he never explains anything. But anytime Gateway shows up, it's always important. It's always a big deal. Like, what's going on? And Gateway, who never speaks, and Banshee's like, dude, would you just, we're sick of your shit. Would you just please tell us what's going on? And Gateway actually speaks. He says, penance. And he's like, you spoke. You actually spoke. Like, you never do this. We've known Gateway for years, and he just says penance. And what we see is a bolt of lightning, and then here is this female creature. Her name is going to be Penance. That's why he said it. And this is the girl that was captured, that the monster guy was sucking off the life of her for years. She gets dropped in with the crew. And honestly, I kind of forgot that this character even existed. I was like, oh, right. Another creepy, monstrous version of a mutant that has to join this new crew. And it's going to be like, interesting. How is this going to work out? What is this going to be like? Of course, there's some edgy looking bullshit sketch stuff. Like, I love the sketch stuff, but this stupid designy element with the words being on its side, it's somebody trying way too hard to be edgy and cool for the 90s. It's kind of dumb, but the sketches are fun. But that's it. And then there's the back cover with the big monster. It looks really good. And then the crew, this crazy shiny whatever this. I don't know what the term is for this shiny material for these covers. I actually kind of think they're kind of neat. But that's the cover. So anyway, Generation X. It's kind of fine. It kind of covers all the bases. It's kind of what you would expect from a 90s comic for an X-Men thing. Um, I think that the one thing that I do seem to remember, and again, correct me on this, is isn't it the very next issue? If it's not issue 2, it's issue 3 or something like that. But the book instantly goes into the Age of Apocalypse. Because they have that whole like reality changing thing where they canceled all the X-Men books and had these new titles that were the Age of Apocalypse. And if I remember correctly, they go from issue 1 introducing these characters, and then they change it into, I don't remember what the title was, but issue 2 was instantly in part of a crossover. And I thought that was the stupidest thing they could have ever done. How do you introduce a brand new book, and by issue 2 or 3, whatever it was, but I'm pretty sure it's issue 2. You guys will correct me. They instantly jumped the book into a whole other timeline where it went like 4 issues of characters who were like not these guys. I can't believe they actually planned it that way. Like they made that happen intentionally. It's so stupid. It to this day it bugs me. Like, why the fuck would you start a new book and then jump it into something else instantly? It doesn't make any sense. But they sure did it. So by the time you want to see these characters again and see where we're going to pick up from here, you had to wait something like 4 or 5 months to pick up this story. Do I have that right, guys? Somebody please let me know. Clearly, like I said, this bugs me because, you know, it's a decent start, but then they just instantly shut it down, go on to something else, and make you wait to pick up this story later. Really stupid. But it is what it is. So I don't know. Generation X, it was a big deal for its time. I think it had a pretty lengthy run. I don't remember how many issues it went, but it was going on for a while. But I don't know. It's kind of fun. I have no more issues of this thing. I might have a random one here or there that I just kind of randomly happened to pick up. But yeah, this stuff, I didn't collect it, so I don't know if I have any more. I'll have to see if I can find any more of them to see how it went. But that's all I got for now. Thanks for joining me. I really appreciate it. I'll see you next time.